I'm getting to what you came for, okay? All right, so here's a section of the parking that is beside the cafeteria and beside the stadium. And then there's a roadway here that will carry us down to the baseball field. So I'm going to focus in on this particular part of the property and this part of the property where the grass field is, and show you what we would like to do on this campus. One thing I think is good to note is when you look at the colors of roofs, that will usually tell you something about the history of a campus. And you can see what's happened from those original kind of orange colored roofs. This campus has grown a great deal. There have been a lot of expansions, one in the last decade that occurred as well. So that gives you a little history. Just look at the color of a roof when you're Googling, and you can get an idea of what's happened. So we want to do some more on this campus with limited space, but to maximize how we use the property. So this gets me to this area that I mentioned to you, and so we'll focus in on each of them separately. But what I'm showing you here is what would be the layout for a new band room. And on the second floor of this band room, it would be a new dance facility. And if any of you have been a part of our dance program or been in those classrooms, you understand the challenges there. Having obstructions in the middle of the room make this difficult. So we would be laying out that. What this does is move the existing band space to an open area that we can now expand our choir room. Because choir moves, we can now expand our theater. So it has a ripple effect. And then we would come into this space, which used to be, Scott, I don't know if this was the gym when you were playing, but this space here, that's now a two-story classroom. The bottom area, we would move our arts programs that are in different parts of the campus into that space. And we would also be moving a lot of our STEM-related courses, classes into that lower floor as well. So that's what happens in all this area. Now, in between here, what you see would be an additional space for a kitchen. We have some real needs with kitchen and in cafeteria space on that campus. It certainly was not set up for 1,500 students. And then we have a plaza area that you'll see in just a few moments that would carry you right into the new gym or carry you into the art spaces. And then where we have the grass area, you'll see the idea of an indoor athletic facility. So conceptually, I wanted you to be able to imagine that when you get on the campus, you have you have an academic area, and then you get introduced into the arts and athletics area of the campus. And we kind of divide that out by looking at it this way. So here's the front of the band. Here's an idea of what our band room would look like. And I'd like to take you around this building and show this off to you. What would be the conceptual design of it? Went by the band room there. Now you're getting to the back of the cafeteria. Now we're into the plaza that introduces you to the athletics and arts portion of the campus. Sean liked the V right there.
It was a nice touch. It really was.
This is a common space, so cafeteria, if you need outdoor eating, arts classes to be outside, gatherings on Friday nights, it's got all sort of, I think, really wonderful opportunities. So we'll zoom back out here, and then we're going to take a travel down into the band room, and you're going to see some initials that stand for Man, I Love This Band. You're going to see that when you walk through here. That's an important part that came out of the conversations with our arts teachers and Mr. Horton as we were working through this concept. Beautiful view in there. So if I can just go back and zero back down for you, it shows you all the spaces. Band, what's now band would become choir. What's now choir we would have some additional area for theater capacity, a black box type theater. And then As you move on to this side into the plaza, you can see where you'd have different arts areas and also STEM areas. Now, as you travel through this plaza that introduces you to arts and athletics, you can also head down into a different space that I'll show you in a minute. But here's that dance area up here. It gives you a glimpse of band, STEM. There's the dance area that would be above the band room. So let's travel down to the behind the new gym. So if I'm at this location, I'm in the gym. Here's the pavilion you just came out of it. Here's the new gym. That's the bottom floor, actually. But what we're going to do is we're going to travel down the road that runs between the gym and the football stadium, and you're going to get a view of this indoor facility from the top there, and then we'll take you inside it so you can see what this looks like. The idea of this was to make sure we had something that was an indoor facility that could be used not only for athletics but multi-use. It could be used for band, whatever needs there might be, but we also have other needs within athletics, dressing room space. Wrestling, which is one of our largest programs, we have a really small space that some of you may have wrestled in that we need to use differently. So we want to maximize how we're using those spaces by creating this project. So let me show this one to you. This moves you into the wrestling space, commons area for our students. What this would allow us to do is reutilize some of the existing spaces we have, some other needs for dressing, meeting spaces, etc. Well, I think the obvious question that comes up when you put a building on top of parking is, what are you going to do with parking? And that's a really good question. And my friend Dan is here today, and Dan's one of our students at the high school. Going to be a sophomore, real interested in parking, and has been doing an Eagle Scout project. And this is one of the ideas, was just offer up some suggestions for doing this. So I invited him to come to a board meeting during the summer, and he showed up. And he's here. So we're going to try to answer some questions with this. So if you'll remember now, orient yourself to the band area up here where we took away parking. You get an idea at the top right up there what we're talking about, losing about 100 spaces of parking. So what do we do with that? The idea is that we would come over here to where the tennis court's located, where the old alternative school house is located, and we would make that into parking. And then if you go across the street where the parking goes up into the hill, so to speak, there's additional property the board does own that we could go on further in and develop for additional parking. And so by losing 100 spaces with this development, what we essentially do is estimate gaining, I think 170 spaces in total, something give or take like that. Now, right now, student park, we have about 1,000 spaces or so now, I think. The student parking is a little shy of 900 right now. Well, what I believe we could accomplish is we could get all of our juniors and seniors on the campus. Some of the sophomores that turn 16 maybe a little bit earlier, but we could definitely get our 2 upper grades. We could add visitor parking, which we are woefully inadequate with. If you think about that, those 2 situations alone would go a long way addressing some of our parking issues. Friday night events gives us a little bit more ability to handle the number of cars that are coming onto the campus as well. And we would, as a part of this project, be reorienting the front drive to create a more safe entrance for people coming and going. That would be part of the ongoing project. So this is a grand idea, of course, to try to improve something where we're taking spaces away to be able to do it. So that begs the question, what happens to the 6 tennis courts? That's a good question too. And I've got an answer for you. So behind the central campus is where the soccer has been played for many years on this part of town. My boys have played there as well, learned how to ride a bike there. There's a lot of good memories in that park. But several years ago, in honor of one of our, and in memory of one of our great PTO parents, Chantel Dixon Jones, the track was named in her honor. And so what we wanted to do was to build on that legacy and take our tennis facility and move it to the central campus and not have up just 6 tennis courts, but a center court as well. So we would add a center court to it. One part of the concept is that we could go so far in the space where the playground is and where the basketball courts are now, and that shows you 8 pickleball courts. So pickleball is an emerging sport. It's something that's that's just taken off in a lot of ways. We have good potential here. The yellow is just an idea of some space that we would be putting a bathroom facility. That would be nice within Central to have. And then you can see the top markings of trying to do something with parking, and that's also a really bad situation, and we would be addressing that for a safer way to park and adding spaces to it. So this would be tennis. Now, one question I think I do want to acknowledge is that we cannot put every sport on our campus. We don't have room to. Our strategic plan in athletics talked about this, the idea of wanting to do it, but softball is off campus, and that's where they'll stay off campus. That's a base sport. So we do have precedent where we don't have every sport on campus. This is just maximizing space. So that would be the idea of doing this and honoring what I think it's a great legacy there. And as a result of that, because soccer would be displaced, and they're already doing this to some extent, but we would be utilizing Dolly Ridge. For an elementary school, it has a tremendous amount of property, and so there's a great field back there and a great baseball field back there that is used for soccer space. We have recently put lights on that field, so it will be ready to go. There are some accessibility things we would have to address as part of this project to make sure we've got the ability for people to get out that need a little assistance to get out and watch the fields. But this is part of just the bigger picture, I think, that tying community spaces that the City of Vestavia Hills has done for the last several years together with our projects. If you think about it, we had gym space at Liberty Park. We had the gym space, of course, we already have with the recreational facility, but the athletic facilities at the high school, the dressing at the Zits, the Chamber of Commerce building, all of that would be meant to tie in and to welcome our community in different ways, more than we currently have.